It is day 13 of our 25 days of reflections towards Christmas. I believe you reflected on our discussion for yesterday. Our reflection today is titled Common Sense and Divine Instruction. Common sense refers to practical decision making based on experience and logical reasoning, while divine instruction refers to supernatural guidance from God. There are instances of conflict between common sense and divine instructions in the scriptures, where human reasoning often clashes with God's command. These moments serve to demonstrate God's sovereignty and wisdom on one hand, and limitations of man in his logic on another hand, and which brings the necessity of faith. For instance, it defies logic for Abraham to sacrifice his promised son, Isaac, especially since God had assured him that Isaac would be the channel through which his descendant will come. God commanded Abraham to sacrifice Isaac as a test of faith. Abraham obeyed despite the apparent conflict with common sense, trusting that God could raise Isaac from the dead if necessary. This act demonstrated unwavering faith in God's plan. Also, military strategy would suggest attacking the city of Jericho with weapons or laying siege to it. God commanded Joshua and the Israelites to march around the city once a day for 6 days, and 7 times on the 7th day, blowing trumpets and shouting. Despite the unconventional strategy, their obedience led to the miraculous collapse of Jericho's wall, showcasing God's power over human wisdom. Now to the life of Joseph. The life of Joseph, the earthly father of Jesus, provides a compelling illustration of how common sense and divine instruction interact, how they can work hand in hand to navigate life challenges. Joseph demonstrated this quality in several instances. When Joseph discovered Mary was pregnant before their marriage, his initial decision was to quietly divorce her. This was common sense. This sensible decision was to be taken because Joseph could not, in his human reasoning, fathom how that would come to be if Mary had not engaged in some foul place. The common sense in Joseph would want to save his own face besides protecting Mary from public disgrace or severe punishment. This decision reflected his use of common sense and compassion, balancing the law with mercy. But while he was trying to figure things out with his common sense and how to apply the same, God showed up and spoke otherwise. Instead of his planned separation from Mary, his betrothed wife, divine instruction to Joseph was to keep her. Matthew chapter 1 verse 20 says, "But while he thought about these things, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to keep to you Mary your wife, for that which is conceived in her is of the Holy Spirit." This divine instruction will most probably look so difficult for Joseph, most especially now that he did not have any logical reason or basis for his action to keep Mary. Nevertheless, Joseph obeyed this seemingly difficult instruction from above. He obeyed with all readiness to bear the consequences. He obeyed not minding the need to save his face. Joseph obeyed despite the scandalous nature of the matter at hand. He obeyed not minding the public reproach and taunt of men. Joseph obeyed as he could no longer afford to now be selfish, most especially now that the divine attention was now on Mary and the baby in her womb, and not on Joseph and his reputation. Joseph's obedience would be necessary as part of God's means of actualizing his plan for the world, as God would need Joseph to give all the human support that Mary would need. This then implies that our obedience to divine instructions, though most of the time very painful, will make us relevant in God's schemes as we become instrument for fulfilling his purpose. Joseph's humility allowed him to trust God's plan over societal norms or personal doubt. His common sense informed his action, while divine instruction shaped his purpose. There is the interplay of common sense and divine instruction, and Joseph's life exemplifies how common sense and divine instruction can complement each other. The same should apply to us. So, as we celebrate this season of the Lord's birth, we may not need to suspend our sense of logical reasoning. While our common sense is still at work, we need to submit it to God in faith and trust as we take to whatever God bids us to do. We allow faith to prevail over reasoning. We should allow faith to prevail over reasoning. We should trust God who never makes mistakes. We should trust God who will never lead us to regret. We should know that our fulfillment is in heeding to divine instructions and not in sticking to our own logical reasoning. Therefore, let us do well to evaluate our capacity to connect with God at His own level as a people of faith. Act like Joseph by carrying the burden of God's purpose at this season and beyond. And do not forget that you cannot be obsessed with your personal interest and not be at loggerheads with God's plan and purpose. Let me take that again. You cannot be obsessed with your personal interest and not be at loggerheads with God's plan and purpose. Our reflective quote for today says, when we allow faith to prevail over logic, the will of God prevails and prospers in our lives. Merry Christmas in advance. Join me again tomorrow for another episode. I remain your brother, Reverend Oluwagbemiga Adeyemo, Minister for Christian Education, Youth and Family Life, Yaba Baptist Church, Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you for your time. God bless you.